Hey everybody, this is Retro Challenge Gamer. We are back with some more Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tier ranking. Doesn't end, y'all. It never ends. But this is what we have so far. There's a lot of tracks that I wasn't thinking would make the top very best, but yeah, I keep getting surprised as I go through each of these time trials. So we'll see where we are after these next 8 tracks. So moving into the core base game, we have a couple more stuff to choose from, and then some more in the DLC. So, Mrs. Retro Challenge Gamer, which cup shall we rank next? We're gonna do Shell. All right. So we're gonna be doing Moo Moo Meadows, which I split second. Just split second difference. I beat the time here. Very nice. And it's a Wii track, so we're coming down on the Wii tracks very well. So I'm gonna have to admit a little bit of a personal bias here. I really like the theming of this track. In terms of layout and overall novelty, or I should say gimmicks, there's really not a lot going for this track. It really isn't. It's very plain, it's flat, you're off in the countryside. The only thing that really is a problem is avoiding the cows and the Monty moles. That's it. There's nothing else here in this track that could provide obstacles or challenges to you. And in terms of the layout, it's more or less a big loop. That's all it is. And I don't know. I just love it. It's such a fun, simple track. And I think it earns bonus points for me because I've always remembered having fond memories back in grade school where we would take field trips out to the country to go to like some farms or ranches. And I remember milking some cows in like a barn or something, and we would like go out to the countryside like this. And I like the windmill over there. That's kind of a neat touch. Oh, and on the left side as well too. So it just reminds me of that cool time when I was younger, being out and enjoying nature and animals and stuff. Knobscot Ranch, yeah. Ooh. You get to spend a night at the ranch? Wow, where'd you sleep? Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. You have a talent for milking cows without knowing how to. Yeah. You were the cow whisperer. Yeah. So I have a little bit of a personal bias just based on past experiences and what I enjoyed as a kid growing up. So this has a soft spot for me, and for some reason, despite how simple and simplistic it can be, it's almost as bad as Toad's Circuit. I'll give it that in terms of just simplicity. But I don't know. This is where it comes down to the fun factor for me, and I have a lot of fun on this track. It's gonna be in the very good. And I don't think I like it more than Berlin Byways or even Boo Lake. I think that's more of a stronger track. But I think I like it more than Wario Stadium. And so it's going to have a weird spot right there towards the bottom part of very good. I don't know, y'all. This is probably a hot take, but I don't care. I just find it fun. It's stupid simple, but I like it, okay? And that's where it's gonna go. We're gonna move on. So now that that's weird ranking is over with, we're gonna go to GBA Mario. Oh, we're gonna go to another circuit course, y'all. So another GBA exclusive changed port. I think they did a less good job porting this over than they did Ribbon Road, which they completely overhauled that one. So we'll see how well they updated the track. So, as before, this is a circuit track. You're on a road, a flat road, going around a more or less a loop with a couple hairpin turns. Although they do try and spice it up a little bit right here, with the biggest turn in the track being an anti-grav portion. So that does give it a couple extra points in terms of just novelty factor and stuff. I guess you could call it a gimmick too, because I think anti-grav was introduced in Mario Kart 8. I don't think any other Mario Kart prior had anti-gravity sections. And then you have a couple oil slicks, which I do think they do spin you out. They don't just slow you down, they spin you out. And then you have a nice little side pit section with, I think, an item box and a boost to get back onto the main track. But overall, there's nothing really to write home about in terms of talking about this track. I mean, there's a couple crazy shortcuts you can do towards the end of the track. Like, you can cross over the grass here and avoid that turn altogether. There's a ramp you saw on the right, which I've seen some world record holders do a crazy skip, where they then drift all the way left onto those colored blocks that we just passed on the left and go directly onto the track, straight into the finish line. I tried to do that skip. I don't know how to pull it off with my skill level. I can't seem to do it. I can't seem to pull it off. But watching that it could be done, my mouth dropped. My jaw dropped. I was like, you can do that on this track? I thought Lakitu would pick you up and carry you away the moment you landed on those blocks to the left. See those colored blocks on the left there? You can totally ride up on top of them and skip down right in front of people right here and snag the first place at the finish line. So it's got a couple things going in its favor. So it's more than just, you know, a standard Mario circuit track. It's got an anti-grav portion. It's got some fantastic skips you can do if you know what you're doing and you're skilled. So it does bump it up a couple points above, say, Toad Circuit or things like that. Oh gosh, it's definitely an average track for sure. I wouldn't say it's kind of bad, because it really isn't. It's fun, especially when you're in a group setting and you're at 150, 200cc course. I would definitely have more fun on this than, say, DK Summit. And honestly, despite its simplicity, I think I have more fun on it than Dolphin Shoals. Yeah, I might get some flack for that choice, but maybe it's just, I'll say 2-year nostalgia kicking in. When I was playing this 2 years ago during COVID, I do remember practicing a lot on that track and getting very good at turbo boosts and turning and doing shortcuts and things like that. So I think that has some influence on my decision there. I had a lot of fun on that track, despite the layout and the overall simplicity of its gimmicks, and the novelty is just not there. It's just a plain circuit track. It really is. But it's middle of the road average. But I wouldn't mind driving on it every now and then in a competitive setting. So yeah, that's where I'll put it. So we're back to the Shell Cup. Cheep Beach DS. Ah, hey, I beat this one by a couple seconds. Very cool. So let's see how I did. So this is one of those rare cases where we're on a beach and there's not a lot of beach-like tracks in Mario Kart 8. So this is definitely a welcome addition to the overall roster. And the best thing about it is you actually get to spend half the track on that beach. So that's really good. Just when you think you're done with the beach, it now splits it up on like a sort of like an atoll or something where you can actually take the underwater portion. So I like the fact that you have choices here on how to get through this section. You can either take the sand, which is a little bit more of the slower part of the track, or you can take the water, which is more of a direct route, but you're going to need either some items or some good skill with the boosting to get over it fast. And then, of course, it ends back in the small little island village on stilts or whatever, on pillars over the water, so that's kind of neat. I've always wanted a vacation in one of those types of houses, but ooh. Oh yeah, that's right, you have Cheeps as obstacles as you make that jump, so be careful there. So yeah, if you try and follow the road along the beach, you're going to get people passing you up as they take the water route, easily. So don't ever take the beach. Don't take the atoll route through. And then the transition to the jungle is really nice. Almost seems kind of natural and everything. And it gives you a lot of good tight turns if you know what you're doing. And then a couple ramps and leaps that you can jump off of to trick straight into the finish line. So overall, it's got a little bit of everything. It's got a little bit of a 90-degree turn on the plank walk there. good solid turns. Got a lot of little gimmicks there with the Cheeps and the crabs and stuff. It's a good solid track. I mean, is it like an amazing track? No. No, it isn't. But it's definitely a fantastic port of an old DS track. I will say the jungle is probably the weakest aspect of it, even though it does give a little bit of a variety to the environments. I just feel like we have other jungle tracks that would fulfill the same purpose better. So where to put Cheep Beach? I don't want to say it's in the very good category, because it kind of isn't. Oh, I didn't mean to put it right there. But do I have a lot of fun on it? I think I do. I think I do. It's on the upper part of average. Is it funner than Cheeseland? Yeah, I think I do have a lot more fun on it than I do Cheeseland, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like I'm going to have to zoom out yet again and adjust this. Can I zoom out one more time? No? No, I can't? Okay. Okay, this is getting very cramped. Trying to see all the tracks now. It's getting very small and condensed, but I want to keep it all in there somehow. But this is the best I can do. But yeah, I think that's a good place to put Cheep Beach. I do have a lot of good fun on it. I don't mind it, but I just don't feel it's an exceptionally good track. So it doesn't go into the next tier. So it stays right there. Okay, we're back. I had to splice ahead there because I actually started the next time trial for Toad's Turnpike without actually switching back to the Switch output. So we were just like, I was talking to nothing really, and all you were seeing were the tier list. So yeah, that was pretty bad. So this one I actually beat the time on. I beat Alice, but we'll see how well I actually do and if I take any crazy shortcuts or whatever. So what was that? Was that a N64 track? Yeah, that was. So I think there we go. No. There's too many twos. So, as you can see, it's a figure eight. It's a figure eight track with nothing much to talk about. I think the biggest gimmick you have here is the cars, the trucks, the buses, and everything else that you can avoid. And then, of course, I think the anti-grab on the side for 2 parts of the track. You know, that's kind of a neat addition. You can avoid some traffic in those particular areas. But overall, there's really not much to talk about this track. I mean, I'm doing terribly on this particular time trial run. This is from 2 years ago. So I guess my standards were a little bit lower than the standards I have for myself now, doing the time trial tracks for the DLC courses. But I just feel like other tracks did this idea better. I'm sure the traffic got started in the Nintendo 64, because I think that was the second game that came out in the Mario Kart series right after the Super Nintendo one. So this introduced the idea that other cars could be on the road with you while you were racing. But I think other tracks like Moonlight Highway or Shroom Ridge, I think they just did this idea better. I'm just being awful on this course. Yeah, I would have totally reset. Will I try this again and get a better time? No, I beat Alice. That's all I care about. I'm not doing this course again. It's very, very, very boring. So, not much to talk about here. I will have to move some stuff down at the moment, currently. So I'm just going to let it play out. Not much to talk about there. Okay, there you go. It is done. Quit replay. Okay, so where are we at on the tracks here? Toad's Turnpike. I really can't recommend it. I just do not find this fun. As you saw, I had really not much to say about it. It's simple, it's plain, the layout was abysmally uninteresting, and the cars, trucks, and everything was just going so slow to the point where they weren't providing a challenge, and you're just bobbing, weaving in and out. I guess it could get more hectic when you have more players on the track and you can bump people into cars and stuff like that, but because of that, because there's so little you can do, if you get stuck getting hit by a car, you lose like 5 to 6 positions like crazy fast, and the only way you're going to make it up is if you're good at drifting and you do your turbos, or you get like a lucky item and you go surging ahead of everybody else. But there's really not many other options for you to regain lost ground, and so that kind of makes it a weak track overall. It's not as fun as Baby Park. I feel like I have more fun there with all the crazy antics that can happen in that track, but it's definitely funner than Rainbow Road or Mario Circuit 3. So that's what I'm going to have to do, where I'm going to place it. So going to the DLC tracks, which one did you say you wanted, Mini Retro Challenge Gamer? The Golden Dash? Yes, we did. And I also did the Fruit Cup because you told me to do that last time as well. The Propeller. Okay. So we have Syndney Sprint, Snowland, Mushroom Gorge, and Sky High Sundae. So we're going to start with Syndney Sprint. I did not do very well against Baby Mario. I mean, there's not many shortcuts you can take in this particular track. Well, I guess there is, but nothing like crazy big. Although there is one, but I could not perform it very well. So let's watch. This is where, I think this was in Phase 2, this particular track, and this is where people were saying, okay, this is probably, of the 4 Mario Kart Tour tracks, which, by the way, I have to adjust the number here. This was one where it started like, okay, this was a good one. This one had a lot of interesting twists and turns, and the layout was great because it took you around a lot of major locations that are probably more familiar to other people who have been to Syndney or know more about Syndney. Like, I'm pretty sure this is a very famous bridge in Syndney. We just went through the Syndney Opera House at the beginning, and then, of course, at the amusement park, which I'm sure has a name because I think it's a very well-known and popular amusement park in Syndney. But I like the fact that this course takes you through 2 focal points in this track. I mean, that's nice that we go through a ferry, but it takes you through 2. It takes you through the bridge, and then it takes you across the Syndney Opera House multiple times. And then I think this kind of like this bridge boardwalk, I wouldn't call it a boardwalk, but this bridge walk here, or this river walk here, is pretty famous in Syndney, but I just don't know the name of it. But this is also home to one of the craziest and, for me, worst shortcuts ever. I just could not do it. I could not perform the world record shortcut there through that area. But I do like on subsequent laps here on the Grand Bridge that it takes you back around to not just once, twice, but all 3 laps. On the second and third laps, you have those boosts that you can trick off of and everything. So I like the fact that even though you go through the same area 3 times, it changes. It becomes different each time. So that's really neat. And it keeps the track interesting throughout. So you're never bored with one single lap. And that way, it's not just you're driving through more city streets. So, yep, we're going through the bridge. So, again, the major focal point. And I think we actually went over the Syndney Opera House on the top side of the second lap. So, yeah, we went through the park there, and we went top side. So now we're going back in the Syndney Opera House because we began going through it. So now we're going to end going through it, but in reverse direction. So I think it's really neat how it's just designed to just circle around these 2 focal points of the track while still giving you a view of some of the other famous attractions or tourist spots. Yeah, and compared to things like Amsterdam Drift and things like that, I feel like it's very clear where you need to go. You're not like stuck figuring out like, oh gosh, oh geez, there was that left turn. And you'd miss the arrows that blended in with the dense visual landscape of some of these tour tracks. Here you can visually tell where you're at any one point in the track on Syndney Sprint. And you're not going to miss a turn because they're very well telegraphed. I think the only turn that's actually very difficult to make is probably the tight one in the Syndney Opera House, that little quick turn. But once you know it's coming, it's very simple, very easy to get through it. So that's actually definitely one of the stronger tracks. I would honestly put it right here above Dragon Driftway. Yeah, definitely. Because it's another variant of Dragon Driftway, but it's got a lot more going for it in terms of just visual aesthetics and trick jumps and things like that. I just find it a lot funner than Dragon Driftway. It's more of a tighter track, more course, and it actually gives you more to look at. Whereas with Dragon Driftway, it's the same track, all 3 laps, and it can get a little long in the tooth as a result. It's not as good as Coconut Mall, which has a lot more craziness going to it, and it's a lot more of a more condensed, compact track to work through, but it's a very solid, very good track overall, and I think that's where I'm going to put it. So moving on to GBA, Snowland, which I did not do very good. This is another GBA port. I don't think it's going to be as awesome as the Ribbon Road, because I just don't think anything can compare to the GBA port of Ribbon Road. But this is nice for what it is. I mean, you're on ice physics pretty much the whole time. So you're going to need some sort of cart that's going to have some great grip, I think. Something to go off-roading. And then this is where I think it's kind of cool. You have a huge shortcut here where you can just leap over the snow and hit the ice here with some penguins as a nice, cool little obstacle that can be somewhat predictable, depending if you can see them hop out. And then there's a couple shortcuts. There's actually quite a few shortcuts for this particular port, like that one you see through the blocks there. I've never seen a world record holder take that one, but in competitive fun play, you can definitely see people using a mushroom and just zipping through those blocks across the snow there. So I like the fact that despite how simple the layout of this is, there's a lot of things you can do to zip around and skip ahead several positions. Like this big center fishing hole here, this big gap in the ice there. I've seen some people just literally boost and zip over it, and that's insane to me. I tried. No, I hit the drink, and Lakitu had to pull me out. But I do love the additional stuff they put here. Like that little ramp there, right over there. You can like eke out just one extra position at the last second as you cross the finish line. You know, just spoiling someone else's day right before they even know what happened. So that's kind of neat. Now, some people take the first snowman. I take the second one. I've tried to do the shortcut at the first snowman, which is a bigger, better shortcut, but I can never make it. And Lakitu just pulls me out of the snow. It's just it's stupid crazy how to do that shortcut, and I just can't do it. But overall, this is a fantastic, good track. I don't see anything wrong with it. I just feel like it's one of the weaker ports. It's one of the weaker tracks. So let's go see where I would rank it. I think I prefer it over things like Riverside Park, Yoshi's Valley, and Amsterdam Drift. It's a fun, simple track, you know? Sometimes you just need a simple track to have fun on. It's still average. It's not like one of the best or very good tracks. But the question is it better than Sherbetland, the other ice-based track? I think I'm going to put it there. And the reason why I think I'm going to put it there is because Sherbetland has more options for you to work with in terms of skipping areas of the track, taking different routes, because there's like an upper and lower underwater section, things like that. And I just think it's the more complex track and a better port of what it was meant to replicate. So yeah, I think Snowland is just middle of the pack, average. So that's a good ranking for it. So that's where it's going to go. So moving on to the last two of this particular one, the Wii Shroom. Oh, wow, fractions of a second. Yeah, I'm not doing this time trial again. I am not. And what was that? Wii? That was a Wii one? We're coming down to the end of the Wii tracks here. So the biggest gimmick, as you can see, is mushrooms. There's nothing really special to write home about at the beginning of the track. Starts off kind of boring. Go across a bridge, and then immediately you're given a taste of what to come. A mushroom for you to trick off of. And then the track splits. I don't know why anybody would take the left route, because it seems like it's a longer route. You might get some item boxes there, but for the most part, why would you take it? Just go straight across the mushrooms. And then here in the cave is the biggest selling point for most players of this track. The constant bouncing off the mushrooms to get out the other side, and then a hairpin turn, and you're done. And then you're on to the next lap. What? Psychedelic mushrooms. If you saw on the left there, there's a shortcut that you can take across the gap to get over the bridge and bounce off those mushrooms to get across the bridge, and you can skip ahead a couple positions. I'm just not skilled enough to do it. I just land in the pit and Lakitu has to save me once more. But I think the biggest gripe I have here is the mushrooms. This is the biggest gripe that I have right now, is these mushrooms. Because more often than not, I can't seem to consistently get tricks off of them. And that hairpin turn is like killer. Because if you don't know how to do that skip, because some people use a boost, they come careening out of that cave in a drift, and they hop over with using a mushroom, they hop over the gap there and land straight in front of the finish line and then finish it off. It doesn't matter if you're first. They're going to beat you every single time. And so, overall, this track, see, I can't even get the tricks, even though I tried. Overall, I just don't find this as a fun track for me to play in. Even casually. I don't think that has anything to do with it, honey. So, going to the tier list, Mushroom Gorge. Oh, yeah. I think I know where to put it. And I think I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but whenever this comes up, I would never select this. I would never choose it. I don't think it's very fun. And I feel like even in casual play, I feel like playing against the computer is a little bit disappointing. And I always tend to do bad on this track. So whenever it shows up, I just... I don't really have much to say about it. I know it should be fun. A lot of people find this track fun. But I don't. I think it's just a badly designed track that other tracks have done better. Like Alpine Way or Rock Mountain. You're out in the wilderness. You're out in the mountains. Just done in a better, more fun way. And there's not like any gimmick tricks like the mushrooms that you bounce off of that would make or break your particular run, because more often than not I end up not being able to trick, and I know it's probably a skill issue or something, but you know, these wrists aren't getting any better, and I feel like it's just a hard track for me to do well in, and I just never have fun running through it. So it's got to go down there. In fact, I find like you know what, no, hold on, I will change it just slightly. It is funner than Toad's Turnpike, yeah. It's a little bit funner than Toad's Turnpike, but not by much. I find more fun in Baby Park with all the craziness happening there. So no, that's its final slot, and you know what? If I think too hard on it, I'm going to just keep running around in circles. So we're just going to keep on to the last and final track of the Propeller Cup, Sky High Sundae, which I did not beat the time trial on. So this was an original track, although I think it got introduced in Mario Kart Tour, but it didn't have some new additions, which I think were the guardrails, which you can trick off of, and apparently just drive through, which is kind of weird. They don't have any hitboxes. You can just trick off them, but whatever. Weird. But a lot of people feel like you go slower. Like this track is a lot slower than most of the other tracks, and I think the cause of that is because everything is in anti-grav, which kind of slows down some of your jumps and how you go take turns and everything. So as a result, this doesn't feel as fast as it should, because if you break it down to its core essence, it's like another Excite Bike track. It really pretty much is Excite Bike 1.5. The only problem with that comparison is that I think Excite Bike did it better. Now, novelty-wise and how it looks, this is leagues beyond what Excite Bike is. This is not like a dirt track rally or anything like that. You're in like Luncheon Kingdom. That's what I was thinking of when I was thinking forward to this track. This reminds me of Luncheon Kingdom from Super Mario Odyssey, except now you're like in a different part of the kingdom. You're not in the lunch part of the kingdom, you're in the dessert part of the kingdom. But pretty much it's the same concept. But I have seen people take this hairpin turn right here at the very end and just skip it almost altogether. They like careen off the side in a huge drift, and they just land on the ice cube blocks, you know, leading straight to the finish line. I tried doing that skip, and Lakitu was just like, nope, he was having none of that. He just pulled me out of the abyss. So I can't seem to do that skip, so I just have to do it normally. But overall, this is kind of a boring track. It's just a big loop with a bunch of trick jumps and nice visuals. there's not much else to go off of here. It's Excite Bike, except that track did it better. This is a lesser version of that track, and with less things for you to trick off of. So getting to the rankings, oh man, how am I going to rate this? As I said, it's Excite Bike, but it just did it better. So it's going to have to go down here. In fact, I think I have more fun on Donut Plains 3. Yeah, I think Donut Plains 3 is a stronger track. I mean, it can't go above Excite Bike because I already compared it to the track, and I know that track did it better. So it's got to go beneath that. But I think I find Sky High Sundae funner than Dry Dry Desert, which is just a boring slog. So I would never select it, but I wouldn't mind playing on it. It's just not my idea of a good time. So Sky High Sundae cannot go higher than this. This is the peak of where it's going to reach. So with that, we have, I believe, 40 more tracks left to go. I don't know. The count is in the lower left, but we don't have that many more to go. We have at least 4 more videos left to go. So until next time, everybody, see y'all later, and stay retro.